to be here today to share with you your 90th birthday. I don't know if I'll have mine, but you've had yours. Lloyd and James are not here with us today. They're the oldest and the youngest of our family. And you know, it's the middle that holds the two ends together, and Joanne and I are here. So, they do send their greeting. Lloyd has been working for some 30 years with the United States Information Service and the Foreign Service. And in retirement, he contracts back to them and does tours of international students of the United States. And that's what he's doing right now. I think he's in the state of Washington and he's not here. Jim had a wedding with his wife's side of the family this weekend in Minneapolis. And had to do bus service back to Chicago Airport for an uncle that came from Norway. So he can't be here today either. It was 1935 when my parents arrived here to assume the pastorate. It was a pastoral relationship that was not probably always riding the mountain crest, but it was not always in the valley either. And it was a pastoral relationship that was to continue for 15 years. And as I look through your anniversary book, I guess I say with some pride, I guess in terms of my father, that he had the longest tenure here of any pastor in your history. Some may have thought that was too long, and having voiced it, and you're welcome to do so, he's not going to hear it. But we grew up here. People of Elim, the people of the Osakis community, have become our home. I was, well, I'm sorry, Lloyd was 5. Joanne was 3. I was not quite 2 when James was born here the year that my parents arrived in the fall of 35. District 17, which is still sitting down the road there a ways and the doors are closed, was the primary education for me. And then we moved on to Osakis High School, and for all of us kids, those 2 schools provided the bulk of our public education even today. We've all gone through college and some additional school, but if you count the number of years, those 2 schools count for more years than any other. Elim's Sunday School, Elim's Vacation Bible School, Elim's Confirmation Class, Elim's Young People's Meetings provided the bulk and the majority of our spiritual foundation as we grew up. I remember being confirmed with Cleve Anderson and myself and Marilyn Foote. Cleve had the disadvantage of not being able to attend Sunday school all the time because he couldn't get here. And so he was allowed by my father to know in advance what he was going to get for confirmation day. And he had the 10 Commandments and the Creed and what is meant by this, and the Lord's Prayer and what is meant by this. But Steve wasn't sure that he could handle it, and we knew he couldn't maybe handle it all, and so he said, whatever he misses, you're going to have to handle it. And we didn't know what order he was going to miss it in. And so he said, as long as you know what's between the front cover and the back cover, including all Bible references, you'll have no problem. And I still remember today, the one question I stumbled on was, what is God? God is a spirit who is almighty, all-knowing, everywhere present, wise, good, merciful, holy, true, and just. And I don't know any more old Bible references, but that part I do remember because I embarrassed myself before all you people. But it's not all bad to be embarrassed publicly. It does serve some purpose once in a while. Many of the people who we remember in our memories are no longer here with us today. They're lying at rest outside, awaiting the resurrection. And there are many others that are not here today either, that at one time were a part of this community And there's many of you, who are here today and who are still a part of the community, and many of you who have come back. The other night, after Gerhard had called me and asked if I would give a greeting, I sat down and out of memory recalled, without referring to any Sunday school bulletins or confirmation class or anything like that, pulled out 200 and some odd names of people that have been here as part of this congregation during the 16 years that we lived across the street. That's no small congregation. I'm going to talk a little bit about a pamphlet that's out in the hallway later on. But one of the thoughts that came to my mind was as a project for you people. You know, you remember reading in Scripture the Begats book? So-and-so begat so-and-so and begat so-and-so. If you took the 1974 or 75th anniversary book at any rate, which I think came in 74, and looked at the founding families and then went through your membership and looked at their families and then took their descendants and made a family tree out of that and found out where they are geographically in this world, you'd see something about what your impact is in this earth. I think it'd be an interesting project for Ladies' Aid or Vacation Bible School or whatever you're going to do. What is Elim? I went to Scripture to find out what that was, and the only place I could find Elim was in the book of Exodus. Maybe I had a poor concordance or something. But in the book of Exodus, the 15th chapter, verses 22 through 16:1, I'm going to read for you. Then Moses led Israel onward from the Red Sea, and they went into the wilderness of Shur, and they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. When they came to Marah, they could not drink the water of Marah because it was bitter. Therefore it was named Marah. And the people murmured against Moses, saying, "What shall we drink?" And he cried to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree, and he threw it into the water, and the water became sweet. There the Lord made for them a statute and an ordinance, and there he proved them, saying, "If you will diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord your God, and do that which is right in his eyes, and give heed to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of the diseases upon you, which I put upon the Egyptians. For I am the Lord, your healer." Then they came to Elim, for there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they encamped there by the water. Chapter 16 and the first part of verse 1. They set out from Elim, and all the congregation of the people of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after they departed from the land of Egypt. So what is Elim? Elim is a spot east of the Red Sea, geographically, a place between the bondage of Israel and the land of promise which lies ahead. Literally, Elim was an oasis, a place of 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees. It was a place of renewal and refreshment and peace. And it was a place between bitter water and the wilderness of sin. And so Elim, today, as you celebrate the opportunity of 90 years to be a spiritual oasis, I would ask that we all, those who have been a part in times past and still have some roots here, and those of you who regularly attend, look forward with vigor and renewed vision for the next 90 years to maintain the name that Elim implies, a place between bondage and the promised land, an oasis on that journey which gives renewal, refreshment, peace. And I think then we will be able to maintain the mission which Pastor Gold spoke about this morning. Opportunity, problems, along the way, yes, but blessings also. Some of those 200 names I recalled are people whose names are out on their mission boards and who have gone on into full-time ministry and Christian service as a response to a call that they sensed in or responded to in our life, but no doubt the seeds of which were planted here. And I think it's important to know that. And it's not so important whether you're full-time on salary as a missionary or a pastor. What is more important is that you're responsive to the call of God as He interacts with you from day to day, where you're at, in your workplace, in your house, in your church. And that your witness be consistent and faithful. Those of you who haven't noticed, there's a booklet on the back shelf titled This and That, and I want to tell you how that came about. When we lived here, there was a secretary desk that stood on the west wall of the dining room. We belonged to my mother. And for all 16 years that we were here, as far as I know, that's where it was. I went to Illinois with them when they responded to the call to Illinois and stayed there for 18 years. And when she passed away this spring, it was designated to be given to me. And so I hauled it in my van after the funeral and brought it back to Stillwater and subsequently brought it into my house and my apartment. And going through it, it contained a number of miscellaneous papers, and in between a number of those papers was a little packet of poems clipped together with paper clips between two pieces of green construction paper, and on the outside of it was written This and That. And what's in this book is what was in between those two pieces of green construction paper. I wrote a little foreword to it, we decorated it with some pictures to illustrate it as best I could. The pictures, there's a picture of this picture, which goes along with the poem Satisfied with Jesus. That poem it appears twice in this booklet, and I did that. Notice the notation on the bottom was it was dedicated to Mrs. Ole Stenon at the time her husband died here, and it was written in Osakis. She chose that poem. 3 years prior to her death, she brought it to the funeral director in Ottawa, and I said, I want that in the bulletin for my final service, and that's what it appeared. I didn't know at that time that this is where it was written. I hadn't seen these poems until after her death. But I thought it was appropriate to share some of this with you. A lot of this has to do with the history that took place in Elim. There's even some that has to do with the history of Lutheran Brethren, since Pastor Overguy is sitting here, I'll read it. My mother attended the school at Grand Forks, North Dakota. And just to show you that she wasn't always serious, and here's one titled Poking Fun at the Faculty. One day when walking down the hall, I surely thought the roof would fall, for such a noise I had never heard. What could it be? Was it beast or bird? Then down the banisters, who did come but Cleva, Brones, Miss Storstein, and Strong. Well, Brone probably wasn't all that serious either. There's another one that I would like to share with you just briefly. Most of you know that are here today that my mother struggled from 1948 to 1951 in a sanitarium with tuberculosis. She was at Aldina San, and she was at Oliver Ching San in Walker, Minnesota, and ended up in the University Hospitals in Minneapolis and had 14 ribs removed and both lobes of the left lung. And she left in 51, certified, able to go home and be at home, and that's the year or the summer that they moved to Ottawa, Illinois. But she still had times of trouble, and I remember in 1972 getting a call from my dad saying, if you want to see Mother before she goes, you better come now, and I came. And she was under an oxygen tank, and I held her hand and said goodbye, expecting that the next time I'd see her would be in eternity. But she did have pneumonia, but she was also being checked for reactivation of TB, and this is the notation that's on the bottom of this poem. January 5th, 1972, Ryburn Hospital, Ottawa, Illinois, while awaiting results of TB tests. Some thoughts on the sparrows at Ryburn. In the cold gray dawn outside the window of room 121, the sparrows sit as clods of clay, frozen fast to branches of trees and bushes. Have they perished in the bitter cold night, uncared for, unsheltered? But see, here a head is lifted, a wing flutters, and before the full light of dawn, A burst of song is heard, a melody of carefree, trusting praise to him who marks the sparrow's fall. Inside the window from room 121, bed 2, I am watching, listening. Words not memorized, but learned long years ago, come to mind. Fear not, ye are of more value than many sparrows. My cherished plans may never be realized. My hopes of an earthly home may never come true. Yet, this is God's promise. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee, and my heart sings with the sparrows. That was part of her life, part of what she dealt with. And I shared this yesterday afternoon with Helen Cook, who also spent some time in Aldine and Aldine. She says, I remember when it was either when your folks candidated here or the first Sunday they were here, your mother was asked to give a testimony, and she quoted that same verse. It was long years ago that she had it in her heart. One other thing I want to talk about, I'm sorry, be very short here today. This is a tape that my dad was in the process of making at request of some people here that had attended the services in 72, I believe, with Brian Erickson and Margaret and my father. And they had done some singing, and they'd asked if he would make a tape. He was doing that tape at the time he had the stroke. It never did get completed. We have it here. Rick Hooken has said that he would duplicate it for us, and we would get it out to you as fast as possible, so we won't have to go back to him and later do it or someplace else. If you would like to have a copy, just sign up on the back and we will get you a copy. The same way with this, we have asked only that you give a donation to Elim. We would like to see some type of memorial established in memory of our parents here, Reverend and Mrs. Hagen. And if you'd like to give a donation to Elim, all the money goes to that fund and to that project. In closing, let us bow in prayer, and I'm going to read a prayer again. The prayer which was written here in Osakis, the year is not known, by my mother. But it's a prayer, I believe, which we can all enter into. O thou who knowest the end from the beginning, and in thy love hast hid it all from me, for this I thank thee and continue trusting. Uphill, down dale, thy way is best for me. And thou who loved me through eternal ages, thou knowest, Lord, there is no good in me. But oh, the joy within thy book's fair pages to read and find my righteousness in thee. And thou who knowest the answers to my wherefores, the things I cannot understand nor see. To thee I come for strength, my only resource. Hold thou my hand and let me walk with thee. And through thy Spirit speak thou to me, Jesus, and may my spirit be attuned to thee. No weight of sin, nor care of earth between us. Oh, may thy love flow in and out through me. Amen. Thank you.